Hashtag YouTube intro. AMD's throwing down the gauntlet, Tesla's reversing course, and Nvidia's literally going to the moon, all today. We're breaking down 7 massive AI moves that just shifted the entire tech landscape: the Helios showdown, robotaxi chaos, Etched stunning win, lunar GPUs, Microsoft's secret models, Google's billion-dollar EU fine, and the energy crisis threatening it all. Stick around because one of these stories just revealed why your next AI breakthrough might depend on power grids, not processors. AMD takes on Nvidia with its Helios AI rack-scale system. AMD just threw down the gauntlet in the most competitive chip battle of our time, and this could actually shake up the entire AI infrastructure market. The company is launching Helios, a brand new rack-scale system designed specifically for AI workloads, and it's shipping to customers later this year. This isn't just another processor announcement, this is AMD making a serious play to dethrone Nvidia from its seemingly untouchable position in AI computing. Here's why this matters so much right now. Nvidia has basically owned the AI infrastructure space for years, with their GPUs becoming the default choice for data centers training and running large language models. But that dominance comes with a price tag that's gotten astronomical, and companies are desperate for alternatives. AMD's Helios system is purpose-built from the ground up for AI workloads at scale, meaning it's not just a repurposed gaming or general-purpose chip. The company is betting that by offering competitive performance with potentially better economics, they can finally convince major cloud providers and enterprises to diversify their GPU suppliers instead of putting all their chips in one basket. The broader implication here is huge for the entire tech industry. If AMD can deliver on performance while undercutting Nvidia's pricing, we could see a genuine shift in how companies build their AI infrastructure. This would increase competition, drive down costs, and give customers real choices instead of a monopoly situation. For consumers, that means cheaper AI services down the line. For the industry, it means we're entering a new era where the AI chip wars are actually competitive again. AMD's Helios isn't guaranteed to succeed, but it's the most credible challenge to Nvidia's dominance we've seen yet. Tesla's robotaxis are moving in reverse. Tesla's robotaxi dream just hit a massive speed bump, and the numbers tell a story nobody wanted to hear. We're talking about a 36% collapse in paid robotaxi miles during the second quarter of 2026, even as the company expanded into new cities. This isn't a minor hiccup, this is the kind of metric that makes investors nervous and raises serious questions about whether autonomous vehicles are actually ready for prime time. Here's what makes this particularly striking: Tesla has been aggressively pushing robotaxi expansion as the centerpiece of its future growth strategy. Elon Musk has been talking about a fleet of autonomous vehicles generating massive recurring revenue for years. But there's a massive gap between the vision and the reality. When you're expanding geographically but seeing your actual usage plummet, it suggests people aren't confident enough in the technology to rely on it regularly. Maybe the rides are still too unpredictable, maybe the pricing isn't competitive, or maybe consumers simply don't trust full autonomy yet. Whatever the reason, the data is brutal. The broader tech industry is watching this closely because Tesla's struggles with robotaxis could reshape how we think about AI-powered transportation. Every major automaker and tech company has bet billions on autonomous vehicles, assuming the technology would mature faster than it actually has. Tesla's stumble suggests we're still years away from the kind of reliable, trustworthy autonomous systems that could genuinely replace human drivers at scale. This isn't just about Tesla anymore, it's about whether the entire autonomous vehicle revolution is moving faster than the technology can actually support. AI chip startup Etched defies skeptics, hits $10.3 billion valuation from big-name investors. 3 Harvard dropouts just proved that the GPU monopoly isn't as unshakable as everyone thought. Etched, a startup that barely existed a few years ago, just hit a $10.3 billion valuation with backing from some of the biggest names in tech investing. The reason? They've built chips that can run AI inference faster and cheaper than the graphics processors that currently dominate the market. No GPUs required, they claim. That's a massive statement in an industry where Nvidia has been printing money hand over fist. Here's why this matters beyond just another startup success story. Right now, if you want to run an AI model, whether it's for a chatbot, image generation, or any real-world application, you're almost certainly using a GPU. Nvidia has built an empire on this dependency, and the entire infrastructure of modern AI runs on their hardware. But Etched is saying they've cracked something different: specialized chips and memory components designed specifically for inference workloads. If they're right, they're not just competing in the GPU space, they're potentially disrupting the entire economics of how AI gets deployed. The skeptics have been loud, and honestly, they had a point. Challenging Nvidia's dominance isn't new, plenty of companies have tried and failed. But when you've got major institutional investors putting over $10 billion into your valuation, it signals they believe Etched has something real. The fact that 3 young founders without traditional industry pedigree pulled this off is the kind of disruption story Silicon Valley loves, but it also reflects something deeper: the market is hungry for alternatives, and there's genuine belief that the current GPU-centric model has inefficiencies waiting to be exploited. What happens next will reshape how we think about AI infrastructure. If Etched delivers on their promises, we could see a fragmentation of the chip market where specialized hardware wins out over general-purpose GPUs for specific tasks. That's not just good news for Etched, it's a signal that the AI hardware wars are just getting started, and the winner-take-all era of Nvidia dominance might actually have an expiration date. Nvidia is sending GPUs to the moon. Nvidia just made a move that sounds like science fiction but is actually happening right now. They're sending GPUs to the moon. Yes, you read that correctly. The company that's already dominating artificial intelligence on Earth has decided that our planet apparently isn't enough, and they're expanding their empire to lunar territory. This isn't just a publicity stunt either. There's serious infrastructure being built up there, and Nvidia wants their chips powering it all. Here's what's actually going on. Multiple space agencies and private companies are establishing permanent lunar bases, and they need computing power to run everything from life support systems to scientific instruments to communication networks. Nvidia's GPUs are the gold standard for processing massive amounts of data and running complex simulations, which makes them invaluable for space operations. The company is essentially saying, wherever humans go, our technology goes too. It's a brilliant business move that positions Nvidia not just as a terrestrial AI powerhouse, but as the computing backbone of humanity's expansion into space. But this reveals something bigger about where we're heading as a civilization. We're at this inflection point where artificial intelligence and space exploration are becoming intertwined. You can't run a modern lunar base without AI handling autonomous operations, data analysis, and problem solving in real time. By putting their GPUs on the moon, Nvidia is betting that the future of computing isn't just about Earth-based data centers and consumer devices, it's about distributed intelligence across the solar system. This is the kind of long-term thinking that separates companies that dominate for decades from those that fade away. Nvidia isn't just selling chips anymore. They're selling the computational foundation for humanity's future, one planet at a time. Microsoft launches new in-house AI models that says cut costs up to 89% versus OpenAI. Microsoft just threw down a gauntlet that could reshape the entire AI industry, and most people haven't realized what just happened. The company unveiled two new AI models built entirely in-house, an image generator and a speech model, and the kicker is they're claiming these can do the job 89% cheaper than relying on OpenAI's technology. This isn't just another product launch. This is Microsoft signaling that after years of betting heavily on OpenAI, they're ready to break free and build their own AI future. Here's the context that makes this explosive. Microsoft has been OpenAI's biggest financial backer and closest partner, pumping billions into the relationship. But that partnership comes with a catch: you're dependent on another company's models, their pricing, their roadmap. What Microsoft is doing now is the classic move of any major tech company that realizes it can't afford to be held hostage by a supplier. They're building internal alternatives that are not just competitive but apparently cheaper and more efficient for their specific needs. The timing matters too. This comes roughly a year after Microsoft publicly committed to developing purpose-built models, and they're backing it up with real production data showing these new models actually work at scale. The broader implication here is seismic for the entire AI ecosystem. If Microsoft can successfully power its own products, Copilot, Azure services, enterprise tools, without OpenAI, it fundamentally changes the power dynamic in AI. We're watching the beginning of vertical integration in AI, where the biggest tech companies stop outsourcing their intelligence and build it themselves. This could mean lower costs for consumers, more competition in the AI space, and potentially less dominance from any single frontier model company. The AI industry is entering a new phase, and this announcement is the proof point that the era of one company dependency is ending. The EU fines Google $1 billion for prioritizing its own services in search. Google just got hit with a $1 billion fine from the European Commission, and this isn't just another regulatory slap on the wrist, it's a direct challenge to how the world's most powerful search engine operates. The EU claims Google systematically rigged its own search results, pushing its own apps and services to the top while burying competitors. We're talking about Google Maps dominating local searches, Google Shopping getting prime real estate, and Google's own products getting preferential treatment across the board. This is the kind of behavior that sounds almost quaint compared to what we're dealing with in 2026, but it reveals something fundamental about how these tech giants have operated for years. Here's the thing that makes this significant: Google's search algorithm is supposed to be this neutral arbiter of information, ranking results based on relevance and quality. But if Google is also the company building the products being ranked, you've got an obvious conflict of interest. It's like if Netflix owned the movie theater and decided to only show its own films. The EU has been investigating this for years, and they've essentially concluded that Google abused its dominant position to entrench itself even further. This fine is meant to punish that behavior and force Google to change how it operates in Europe, but $1 billion is genuinely pocket change for a company with Google's resources. What really matters here is the precedent this sets for the entire AI and tech industry. We're entering an era where these companies aren't just platforms anymore, they're also building the AI systems, the applications, and the services that run on top of their platforms. If Google can get away with prioritizing its own stuff in search, what's stopping other tech giants from doing the same with their AI assistants, their cloud services, or their recommendation algorithms? This fine is essentially the EU saying that kind of self-dealing won't fly, and that's going to shape how these companies build products for years to come. The download, energy transmission, and US threats against Chinese AI. The US just escalated its AI arms race with China in a way that could reshape global technology for the next decade. New restrictions on semiconductor exports and AI chip sales are tightening the noose around Beijing's ability to build cutting-edge artificial intelligence systems. But here's what most people are missing: this isn't just about computers. It's about energy, infrastructure, and who controls the future of intelligent machines. The technical reality is brutal. Training modern AI models requires enormous amounts of electricity. We're talking about data centers consuming as much power as small cities. The US understands that choking off China's access to advanced chips like Nvidia's latest processors directly limits how many AI experiments they can run, how quickly they can iterate, and ultimately how competitive their AI models become. It's economic warfare disguised as national security policy. China can't build the next generation of language models or autonomous systems if they can't get the hardware to power them. Meanwhile, the US is investing heavily in its own energy infrastructure to support AI development, creating a widening technological moat. What makes this moment genuinely significant is the precedent it sets. We're entering an era where technology dominance is explicitly tied to resource control and geopolitical leverage. Other nations are watching closely, wondering if they should be stockpiling chips or investing in alternative semiconductor manufacturing. The global tech supply chain, already fragile after COVID, is about to fracture further along ideological lines. This isn't temporary posturing either. We're looking at structural changes that will define which countries lead in AI for the next 15 to 20 years. Thanks for watching Neural Brief. Stay ahead of AI and tech trends, subscribe, hit like, and enable notifications for daily updates. See you tomorrow.